Alright, I am back for what is almost assuredly my first and last Redfall video. I didn't think I'd be making one quite this quickly. I missed the actual launch. I was flying back into town, and I've only gotten to spend maybe 4 hours with the game. But I have come to the conclusion that I am quitting the game because it is truly that bad. At this point, you no doubt have seen the reviews. It has I think a 63 on Metacritic. It's getting roasted by every YouTuber I've seen, ACG, SkillUp. It is just getting absolutely toasted from all sides. I think I saw a couple 8s or 8.5s from like Xbox era or like these dedicated Xbox places. But I am not joking when I say I think this is one of the worst AAA releases I have ever played. I know that sounds hyperbolic. I know it's like a YouTube clickbaiter thing, but like I have sat down and thought about this, and my experience with Redfall, like comparing it to like other famous disaster games, Anthem, the Saints Row reboot, Godfall, I guess launch Cyberpunk 2077, all of these recent like giant misses, I at least like pushed through. Like I could recognize that they were severely lacking in some ways, but there was something about them that was still kind of fun enough to continue. I think Anthem and Godfall both had really good gunplay, and they had at least a somewhat interesting loot system. Anthem, obviously, the story was crap. They dropped the ball on live service stuff. Godfall's level structure was bizarre. Saints Row reboot, it was very stupid to do a reboot. They should have kept the existing characters. Pretty unpolished, but I enjoyed taking over the map and whatever, and, you know, it didn't feel that bad. Cyberpunk was very glitchy, but the core game was very solid. I can't find anything redeeming about Redfall. Not in any category of the game. The main thing that's driving me to quit is just how bad it feels to play, like physically feels. I'm playing on Xbox, which I do hear is worse than PC control-wise, but like it's like an Xbox main game, so I figured I should play it on the actual Xbox. And the shooting is just outrageously bad. It controls terribly. It has essentially no auto-aim, so you're just kind of like shifting back and forth trying to land shots without any sort of like magnetism, which is like really not how it's ever supposed to work. And it's combining how bad the controls feel with how stupid the AI is. You probably have seen on Twitter or YouTube, whatever, like some truly egregious examples of AI just being baffled by an enemy right next to them. I have some clips here, but like there are worse ones I haven't even recorded where, you know, an enemy will just walk right by you and not see you. A vampire will be like stuck floating somewhere and won't come after you. You're fighting inside, everything's getting stuck behind doors, and enemies are like trying to take cover, like running away from you when you're 2 inches away from them. It doesn't make any sense. Nor the third combined factor here is like, okay, well, Paul, this is a looter shooter. You should love that. It's like Borderlands. They're trying to do the whole Borderlands thing. Yeah, that would be fine if the skill trees and the loot weren't also terrible. The skill trees are nothing, really. It's half of the skill tree is devoted to co-op, which I am not playing, and I will go into that in a minute, but it's just upgrading 3 very basic skills. You cannot swap those skills out with anything. They are just your skills, and you will buff them up to be more powerful in time. Even this early, my little arc spike from the sky, it just sticks in the ground and zaps people over and over again. Dramatically overpowered, because you can just have that planted anywhere. It's on a pretty low cooldown, and it will zap everything and even auto-kill vampires instead of you having to stake finish them. Truly bizarre. Loot exists, and it is in different colors. That's it. Like, there is no in-depth loot system here. There are not mods. They do not, like, heavily synergize with specific builds. Not that you even need specific builds. They have some affixes, but it's just, swapping stuff in and out, which is not, once you get higher power levels, like, that's not unheard of for a game like this, but, like, it is just so mind-numbingly bare bones in terms of the stuff you're getting that, like, it won't matter. Like, it will just annoy you because you will just be deleting things from your inventory and just swapping out to, like, the highest thing you have. And there's no chase here. Like, I'm not gonna hunt down the best guns and, like, grind the game for drops. Like, it is not that type of game. And as much as it is taken from Borderlands, like, you're not farming this in any capacity. It's just a game in which loot rarities exist. The main idea for this game was that it was supposed to be co-op, and it was heavily, heavily rooted in this idea of, like, a 4-man co-op team. And that is not supported by what this game is at all. There is no matchmaking. There's no matchmaking at all for anything. Not that there's even, like, specific dungeons or anything to run. You're just kind of roaming around the open world. So you're not partying up to boss farm like Borderlands or do, raid runs like Destiny or something. There's nothing like that. So it's just like, do you want to play this co-op with your friends? And they've devoted, like, half the skill tree to that. I would not recommend any of my friends play this, so that's not going to happen. And then the second thing is, it's host-only progression. So if you are in a group, only the host is moving the main story forward, which makes zero sense. So your friends would have to play their own independent playthroughs and complete missions on their own, which I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that in the co-op space. Like, I truly don't understand why they even bothered with co-op at all. And then on top of this, because it's a live co-op game, you can't pause it, even if you're playing single player. And this is a game where just enemies will, like, randomly come find you sometimes if you stand still too long, because vampires just kind of float around. So you can't pause it. Those are probably all the worst aspects of this, but, like, it keeps diving into worse and worse territory. Like, nothing is good. You can keep going. We can talk about the visuals, performance, mission structure, things like that. Visually, this game is very bad. Part of that is, like, technical issues, which has a lot of pop-in for everything. I shared a photo where there was, like, this texture of like a firehouse symbol on the ground that was just pixelated and never loaded. It just refused to load until, like, later in the game. There's tons of pop-in everywhere you go, but, like, the ugliness extends to the whole art style. Like, I know you're supposed to be, things are stylized here, like the vampires are really lanky with these big claws, and the humans have, like, Arcane has never done, like, the greatest human models, but, like, these are actively horrific looking. They look like they're made out of Play-Doh. Everyone has these weirdly huge hands. Like, there is no art direction that is saving this here. The environments, like the red sun, looks vaguely menacing and whatever, but, like, I've scoured it, I don't know, probably half the map at this point, and, like, I've not seen anything that looks particularly impressive, especially not when you compare it to past games like Prey or Dishonored. Nothing like that at all. And then there's the structure of the entire game, which is literally the most generic, boring, open world format I can imagine. Like, it's like a parody of an open world game. And ahead of release, they talked about, like, Far Cry and Borderlands and things like that, and they wanted to do, like, their take on it. But those games, like, this feels like an open world game from, like, 15 years ago, because the objectives are so basic and stupid that it's go to this place, pick up this thing, take the thing to another place, stick it in a slot, like, and that's it, and fight 5 or 6 enemies in each of these places. And there's no, like, arcane puzzle solving. It's just break a window to get into a place, drop into a hole in the roof if there's a locked door, or just use the 2 different kinds of lockpicks they have to get in a door. And I found the only thing I was ever spending, like, money on, and you get money by collecting, like, literally 50,000 different pieces of crap, like, in the world. It's kind of like Fallout, but even worse. And I was just buying lockpicks because there's no point buying anything else because you're just always running out of those when you try and do anything. and there's no story, not really. Like this island has been infested by vampires. You get a vague hint that like someone was supposed to help people on the island with like their healing blood, and then it got harvested and everyone turned into vampires. All of the cutscenes are like stop motion, still animated. There are no animated cutscenes in this entire game, which is wild considering the Redfall debut trailer was like this crazily cinematic, high quality thing of like all the characters sliding around doing cool stuff, and like there was nothing remotely like that in here. Not even a little bit. It's either people just talking at you, like explaining the side quests they want you to go on. Go lay my watch at my wife's grave or something, and then you're like, you don't say anything and you just go do it. Or there's like the main story cutscenes, which are just stop motion things about how the island got the way it is. But like, you don't care. You don't care about any of this. You don't care about any of the characters. You don't care about your own character. I don't really know why these characters have superpowers that apparently only started working when you get to the island. I don't care about like what I don't know what the central mystery is here. Like, why are there vampires? And like, I don't care to solve that. Like, nothing is driving me forward here in a compelling way. And this is what I mean when like I cannot find anything redeeming. Nothing. I list all these other games where I try to give games that I know are like getting shredded like more of a chance. Like I was one of the higher scores for Mass Effect Andromeda, a game that I thought was unfairly maligned because of a lot of early bugs that like became memes and stuff. But I actually kind of liked that game in the end. And all those other games I listed, like there are positives to pull out here, but I can't find any with Redfall. And like, I'm not trying to be like an anti-Xbox console warrior here. If Microsoft had never bought Bethesda and Arcane just released this game, I would be saying the same thing, because there's no excuse for this. It feels like there was some sort of corporate directive to, okay, everything's becoming live service now, everything's becoming looter now. Arcane, you're good at making games. Like, why don't you make one of those? And they're like, okay. So after Deathloop, the Game of the Year nominee that was like super creative with its time loops and stuff, and Dishonor, which had like really creative gameplay, and Prey, which has great environment design and like a really cool vibe, they did the complete opposite and made the most generic, ugly, unfun to play game I can remember playing. Like I cannot remember the last time I walked away from a game, like not because I was like bored with it, but like it was just actively terrible to play. Like I just did not enjoy the physical act of playing the game. And again, like one of the things could have driven me forward over the other. Like if combat was really good, I could have forgiven like kind of bland mission design, or a lack of a story. Or if like the story was really compelling and I really like the characters, like I could have forgiven poor gunplay and lackluster loot and stuff if I was at least kind of interested in where things were going. You miss both, and it's a complete wash. And especially right now, like this is a terrible time for this game to be out now, because it's not like there's nothing else to do. I still have to play Jedi Survivor. I was out of town, so I couldn't play it. That game, minus its initial technical issues, is supposed to be amazing. Tears of the Kingdom is out in a week, 10 days. Obviously going to be some level of amazing. I have my usual Destiny crap I gotta grind out and play, and yes, grinding strikes does seem much more compelling than continuing to play Redfall right now. And like this is a devastating moment in the industry, honestly. Like it's terrible for Arcane. It's like a big black mark, an unexpected black mark on them. Like even compared to like what happened to CDPR after the Cyberpunk launch, and the issue there was like it took a while to fix, but it was still a fixable game, and it should not have launched with the technical issues it did. But when you got past that, when you overlooked like, okay, maybe there weren't as many player choices as we want, it's a core good game. It is a very good game. And I've seen a lot of people talking about Redfall, and it's like, okay, well, it just needed more polish, it just needed more time, and like it's not launching with 60 FPS on console. Like the FPS is like 11th on the list of bad things about this game. And yeah, it has performance issues, pop in, blah, blah, blah. But like, this is one example where there's no fixing this. Like no amount of time would have fixed this game. It is just at its core extremely broken. Like I think conceptually it was just never going to work with a, I guess you can make it more polished. Maybe you fix shooting so it doesn't feel quite as horrific, but with such a bland open world with essentially a non-existent story and this focus on co-op that doesn't make any amount of sense or is not supported at all. Like, I don't think this game ever really had a chance. And I said in my post earlier that it would have been crazy, but when Microsoft made the acquisition and saw this in development, they should have killed it. This I don't think this game should have been made. And I'm not saying that to be mean. Like, their games are canceled all the time. We don't know what they were all the time, and we don't hear about them. But this is one where they were like reviewing the assets they acquired should have been killed. And it's wild to see as recently as like last fall, Phil Spencer being like, we're delaying these great games so they have like the time it takes to deliver. And like, I can't imagine this looked good when it was in early testing because it looks and plays this bad now. So maybe the idea was that they would just fix it in time, and they said that we'll fix it and make it good, but that did not happen. And ultimately, I do think it comes back to Microsoft. Like, they shouldn't have kept this, and then they shouldn't have released it now without at least some more polish. Again, I don't think there was any saving it ultimately, but it could have been bland but not horrifically performing, maybe. I don't know what else to say. Like, it is a very bad game, and even in a sea of bad games that I have kind of played through and tried to give a chance, and like I was, playing Anthem and Marvel's Avengers and stuff like long after anyone else was, because I knew they weren't at their core good and they were flawed, and I did not think they would have a long-term future, but there were still things in them that I enjoyed playing that were hooks. Redfall, despite being a looter that should theoretically be able to do that with my interests, doesn't do it. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. So yeah, this is probably the harshest criticism I've ever done of a game, probably as long as you've been following me, and I don't know if I'll ever revisit it. Maybe once I have some dead time, but once Diablo 4 comes out, I will never have any dead time. I don't think it's worth continuing at this point. I'm not going to review it and like give it a low Metacritic score. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't think it's appropriate really to review a game after just 4 hours, but like all the people I've talked to that are 10 hours, 20 hours, like it doesn't get better. And I'm not going to waste my time doing that, especially when I have Jedi Survivor sitting right there. So, yeah, if you've played it, let me know what you think. If you have comments on my harshness here, like, feel free, but you really got to experience it for yourself. And I don't really know how you could enjoy a lot of this game or any of it. But thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.